Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a really interesting set of sources here, all diving deep into geothermal HVAC systems.
Mm,
And we're focusing specifically on residential use, right?
hmm
With a special look at Oklahoma.
That's right.
You, our listener, shared these because you want to get a handle on the benefits, the real costs, and how these things actually work
Mm.
without getting bogged down in all the technical stuff or just a massive list of facts.
Yeah, cut through the noise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission today basically is to be your guides. We'll pull out the most important nuggets, maybe some surprising things, the key plus points, the money side of it,
Yeah.
and just lay it out clearly, give you the shortcut to really understanding this topic.
And it's really timely, isn't it? I mean, with energy costs doing what they're doing and people thinking more about the environment, understanding technologies like geothermal heating and cooling, it's becoming, well, pretty important for homeowners. You're looking for comfort, sure, but also savings and sustainability.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in. The basic idea, geothermal. It's not about like burning fuel to make heat.
Yeah.
It's more about moving heat around.
That's the key. It uses the Earth's stable underground temperature. Down there it stays pretty much the same year round. So the system uses that stable temp to heat your house in winter and cool it in summer much more efficiently than traditional systems fighting extreme outside air.
Okay, so how does it actually do that? What are the pieces?
Right, so there are a few main components. First, you've got the ground loop. That's basically a network of pipes buried underground. Could be horizontal, spread out, or vertical, drilled down deep.
Okay.
And through these pipes circulates a fluid, usually water or water antifreeze mix. This fluid picks up heat from the earth in winter, or dumps heat from your house into the earth in summer. It's the heat exchanger.
And these loops, the sources mentioned something pretty amazing about how long they last.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the standout things. These underground loops. They're often expected, even warranted sometimes, for 50 years. 50.
50 years.
Yeah.
That's incredible for a major part of your HVAC system.
It really is. Built to last because, well, it's protected underground.
Okay, so that's the loop outside. What's doing the work inside the house?
Inside, you have the geothermal heat pump unit itself. Think of it as the engine of the system. It's an electric appliance, and it takes the heat gathered by the fluid from the earth in winter, concentrates it, and sends warm air through your house. In summer, it does the reverse, pulls heat out of your home's air, transfers it to the fluid, which then carries it away into the earth via the loop.
And this indoor unit, how long does that typically last compared to, say, a regular furnace or AC?
Generally longer. The sources suggest typically 15 to 25 years for the indoor unit, which is often better than the 10 to 15 years you might get from conventional equipment.
Okay, so lube outside, heat pump inside.
Mm.
How does the warm or cool air get to me in my living room?
Ah, that's the distribution system. And that's probably the part you already know. It's usually your standard ductwork delivering forced air. Or it could potentially work with radiant floor heating systems too.
Gotcha.
But the key thing driving the efficiency, again, is using that constant earth temperature. It's not fighting 100-degree Oklahoma summer air or freezing winter temps.
Right, which makes total sense. And this leads us straight into the why, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing how it works is great, but why should someone seriously consider this? What are those big advantages the sources kept highlighting?
Number one, hands down, is the energy efficiency. It's exceptional. Sources consistently talk about really dramatic cuts in heating and cooling costs. We saw claims like up to 70% savings on heating and cooling bills.
70%. Wow.
Or maybe up to 50% reduction in total home energy use compared to older conventional systems. It's significant.
That's more than just shaving a bit off the bill. That could be a game changer for household budgets.
It really could. And the reason behind it is this amazing efficiency ratio. Geothermal systems, they're famous for this. They can deliver something like 5 units of heating or cooling energy.
5 units.
For every one single unit of electrical energy they actually consume to run the pump and compressor.
A 5-to-1 return on the electricity used.
Exactly. Think about that. You buy 1 unit of electricity, you get 5 units of comfort out. That's where the savings come from.
That really puts it in perspective. Wow.
It does. And then beyond the wallet, there's the environmental angle, which is huge for a lot of people now. You're tapping into clean, renewable, solar energy that's naturally stored in the earth right under your feet.
So less burning fossil fuels.
Right. Lower carbon footprint, less reliance on natural gas or heating oil, lower greenhouse gas emissions from your home's comfort system.
Okay, better for the budget, better for the planet. What's it actually like to live with one? The comfort level.
That's another big plus. The comfort is apparently really consistent. Because it's working with that stable Earth temperature, it delivers very even heating and cooling. Helps get rid of those annoying hot and cold spots in the house.
Oh, that sounds nice.
And it's quiet. Remember, the main outdoor unit is just pipes buried underground. No noisy condenser fan buzzing away outside your window.
Ah, good point.
The indoor unit is also generally much quieter than a traditional furnace kicking on and off.
Quiet, consistent comfort.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty appealing. And you mentioned longevity before.
Yeah, that durability is a major factor in the overall value proposition. That 50-plus year lifespan for the ground loop is just, well, it's exceptional.
Definitely.
And even the indoor unit, lasting 20, 25 years typically, outlasts many conventional systems. And because there are fewer moving parts exposed to the elements and the loop is protected underground, the sources suggest lower maintenance requirements over time. Maybe less frequent annual checkups needed compared to traditional systems.
Less maintenance lasts longer.
You
It all adds up over the years.
It really does. Some sources also mention potential benefits for indoor air quality. They can help manage humidity levels effectively and integrate well with high-end air filtration systems.
Okay.
And finally, while yes, it's a bigger investment up front, it's generally seen as adding real value to your home. The energy savings alone can provide a pretty strong return on that investment. Sources mention maybe 10–20% over the system's life. Some even suggest that the long-term savings can actually outweigh the financing costs, meaning the payback period might only be a few years, especially with incentives.
So just to bring it home for you, the listener, imagine maybe saying goodbye to those really drafty spots or super high summer cooling bills, enjoying consistent comfort all year, feeling good about using less energy, and knowing you've invested in something durable that adds value. That's kind of the picture, right?
That's the ideal scenario, yes. But now we absolutely have to talk about that initial investment because, let's be honest, that's often the biggest sticking point.
Or the upfront cost.
Yeah. The sources are clear. Installing a geothermal system is more expensive initially than putting in a standard furnace and air conditioner. FAQs and articles often mention a range, maybe starting around $10,000, but going up to $30,000, sometimes even more.
Wow. Okay. 10 to 30,000, possibly higher. That's a wide range, but definitely significant.
It depends a lot on your home size. The type of loop you need, vertical drilling, costs more than horizontal trenching, for instance, and just the complexity of the site.
Okay. That's a substantial number, BUT. And this is critical from our sources.
Yeah.
There's help available, right? Incentives.
Huge help. Absolutely. Yeah. The biggest one right now is the Federal Residential Clean Energy Tax Credit.
Tax credit. Okay. So that's money back when you file your taxes.
Exactly. It's not an instant rebate, but a dollar-for-dollar reduction in your federal tax liability. And for systems installed, basically between the start of 2022 and the end of 2032, the credit is a full 30% of the total system cost, installation included.
30%. Okay, so on a, say, $25,000 system, that's $7,500 back directly on your taxes.
Precisely. That makes a massive dent in that upfront cost.
That really changes the calculation.
It does. Now, the credit is scheduled to step down a bit after 2032. It goes to 26% in 2033 and 22% in 2034. So this 30% window is the prime time.
Good to know. Are there tricky requirements?
The main ones are the system has to use the ground or groundwater as the thermal source sink, and the equipment needs to be ENERGY STAR certified, which most quality systems are.
Any cap on how much the system can cost or how much credit you can get?
This is another key point from the sources. Amazingly, there is no dollar limit on the credit amount. It's 30% of your total qualified expenses, period.
No limit. Seriously?
No limit. And you can apparently claim it more than once if, say, you install systems on different properties or over time. It applies to your main home, even a second home, just not rental properties you don't live in.
Wow.
You claim it using IRS Form 5695, the one for residential energy credits. And interestingly, you can combine it with other credits, like if you also install solar panels or make other energy efficiency upgrades.
Okay, so a third back from the Fed snow cap, that's huge. But you mentioned Oklahoma specifically earlier. Are there local incentives, too?
Yes, and this is where it gets even better, potentially. On top of the federal credit, many local electric utilities, and importantly in Oklahoma, electric cooperatives offer their own rebates.
Oh, so stacking incentives.
Exactly. These are usually calculated per ton of the system's cooling capacity. Now, the amounts and the rules, they vary quite a bit depending on who your electricity provider is. You absolutely have to check with your specific local utility or co-op.
Makes sense. Can you give us a general idea of what kinds of local rebates the sources mention? Not every single one, but the range?
Sure. It's a real patchwork, but generally positive. We saw examples in the sources like Oklahoma Electric Cooperative, OEC, offering maybe $500 per ton. Others like Rural Electric Cooperative, REC, or Canadian Valley Electric Cooperative listed amounts as high as $150 per ton for new installs.
Over $1,000 a ton.
Yeah, potentially. And sometimes they add little bonuses, like an extra $225 if the unit has a de-superheater. That's a feature that helps heat your water, too. Seek Energy was mentioned with $1,000 per ton for new systems. And they even had this interesting option for a free loop lease program.
Free loop lease, okay.
Yeah, reducing that upfront cost burden. Others like Cimarron Electric, Central Electric, Edmond Electric, even OG&E, they all had rebate programs mentioned in the sources, typically ranging from maybe $600 up to $800 or $750 per ton.
So the takeaway is check locally, because there could be hundreds, maybe even over $1,000 per ton available from your provider.
Absolutely. Could add up to several $1,000s in additional savings on top of that big federal credit.
Crucial information.
Definitely. And just be aware, these local rebates often have their own specific requirements, things like minimum efficiency ratings. You'll see terms like ER or COP, maybe inspections, specific paperwork. You got to check the details.
Okay, so incentives are key. How does someone start figuring out the right kind of geothermal system for their place and, actually get started?
Well, the sources talk about different types, mostly based on that ground loop configuration. Closed loop is most common. That's where the fluid stays inside the sealed pipes. You can have horizontal loops, trenched shallow if you have enough land.
Like a big yard.
Right, or vertical loops where they drill deep boreholes, maybe a few hundred feet down. That's better for smaller lots.
Okay.
Or if you happen to have a decent-sized pond or lake, they can sometimes put loops in the water, a pond loop. Then there are open loop systems, less common, where you actually pump groundwater through the system. Needs the right water source and permits. And hybrid systems, which might combine geothermal with a smaller conventional furnace for backup in very cold climates, though maybe less needed in much of Oklahoma.
What are the big things an Oklahoma homeowner needs to think about when considering these options?
Key factors from the sources. Definitely the amount of space you have on your property. That dictates horizontal versus vertical loops usually. Soil conditions matter too, how well the ground transfers heat. Obviously, your home's heating and cooling load, how big a system you need. That requires a proper calculation.
Right, sizing is important.
Crucial. And then weighing that upfront cost, minus incentives, against the potential long-term savings on energy bills.
Can you put these systems in existing houses? Or is it mostly for new construction?
Oh, absolutely. Sources confirm that existing homes can definitely be retrofitted. It might be a bit more complex than new construction, but very doable. Installation time varies. Could be a few days, could be a week or two, depending on the loop type and complexity.
Finding the right installer seems really important for something like this. Where should people look?
Yeah, expertise matters here. Sources strongly advise finding local HVAC companies that really specialize in geothermal. Don't just go with any AC guy.
Look for geothermal experience specifically.
Exactly. Look for certifications like from IGS-HPA, that's the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association. It shows specialized training. Also, check if they're authorized dealers for major geothermal brands like Climate Master or Water Furnace. That's usually a good sign. One source mentioned Heart Cells as a local Oklahoma example, serving central Oklahoma since the 90s, dealer for those brands. Just an example of what to look for.
Okay, so specialized, certified, experienced installers. Got it.
And for just learning more, getting educated, sources point to places like NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab for Research. GEO, the Geothermal Exchange Organization, has industry info. Maybe less directly relevant for homeowners, but Oklahoma DEQ or FERC might have some context. But probably the most useful resource for incentives is that DSIRE database.
DSIRE.
Yeah, Database of State Incentives for Renewables and Efficiency. DSIRE. It's like a one-stop shop online, searchable by state for all kinds of energy credits and rebates, including geothermal. Really valuable.
Great resource. Okay, looking forward, what's the vibe? Is geothermal catching on more? What's the future look like?
Sources suggest, growing popularity. Seems like more people are becoming aware of the benefits we've talked about. And frankly, rising or unpredictable conventional energy costs make that efficiency look even better.
Makes sense.
Plus, the technology keeps improving. They're getting even more efficient, integrating better with smart thermostats and home automation systems. So the tech is still advancing.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've taken a pretty deep dive into these sources on residential geothermal HVAC, especially thinking about it here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and what we've seen is fundamentally it's a highly efficient, very environmentally friendly way to heat and cool your home. Key components, especially that ground loop, are built for the long haul, potentially 50 years or more, and generally it means less maintenance compared to traditional furnaces and air
And
conditioners.
yeah, that upfront cost is higher. They're getting around that. But the combination of potentially significant energy savings year after year, plus those really powerful incentives, that 30% federal tax credit available through 2032 with no dollar limit, and then potentially stacking hundreds, maybe over $1,000 per ton from your local Oklahoma utility or co-op. It really can make it a compelling long-term investment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For comfort, for savings, for sustainability.
It absolutely can. So, for you listening, we'd encourage you to think about what we've discussed. Does your property situation, your energy usage, your long term plans, does it align with these benefits? Check out resources like DSIRE for the latest incentives in your specific area. And definitely talk to some qualified local geothermal specialists to get a real assessment for your home. See if it truly fits.
And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. If the ground right under your house is basically this huge, stable battery storing solar energy, what could it really mean for you to tap into that reliable resource right in your own backyard for your family's comfort and your home's future? Something to think about until our next deep dive.